Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, John. See you tomorrow. I just have to say goodbye to Jane.
We said our goodbyes and left.
Good cholesterol. Good cholesterol.
Good day.
Good day.
I must get back. Good day to you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good faith.
Good faith.
The company had acted in good faith.
A ceasefire was declared as a sign of good faith.
Good for nothing.
Good for nothing.
An idle good-for-nothing drunk.
Ian's a stupid good-for-nothing.
Good Friday.
Good Friday.
Good-hearted.
Good-hearted.
Good humor.
Good humor.
At 80, her eyes still sparkled with good humor.
He was patient and good-humored.
Goody.
Goody.
The goodies and the baddies.
Goodish.
Goodish.
Is the pay good? Goodish.
Good-looking.
Good-looking.
A really good-looking guy.
Good looks.
Good looks.
His natural good looks.
Goodly.
Goodly.
£1,500 is still a goodly sum.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good name.
Good name.
It threatened to damage the good name of the firm.
Good nature.
Good nature.
He had his father's good looks and his mother's good nature.
Good-natured.
Good-natured.
Good neighborliness.
Good neighborliness.
Goodness.
Goodness.
My goodness, you have spent a lot.
For goodness sake, stop arguing.
That bar has been closed for goodness knows how long. That bar has been closed for goodness knows how long.
Goodness knows I tried to help him.
The desire to see goodness and justice in the world.
All the goodness of an egg is in the yolk.
Please have the goodness to wait.
He did it out of the goodness of his heart.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Sleep well.
Goods.
Goods.
Furniture and other household goods.
The large market for consumer goods.
Britain's leading exporter of manufactured goods.
There will be tax increases on a range of goods and services.
They were charged with handling stolen goods.
We collected up our goods and left.
A goods train.
He's a great player. He always comes up with the goods on the day.
Face it, Bukowski. We got the goods on you.
After the scandal, he was considered damaged goods by the party.
Goods and chattels.
Goods and chattels.
Good sense.
Good sense. Mrs. Booth showed a lot of good sense.
Mark had the good sense not to argue. It makes good sense to do some research before buying.
Good-tempered.
Good-tempered.
Goodwill.
Goodwill.
He looks as if he buys all his clothes from Goodwill.
A fund was set up as a goodwill gesture to survivors and their families.
The sale price also covers the goodwill of the business.
Goody.
Goody.
We bought lots of goodies for the picnic.
The competition gives you the chance to win all sorts of goodies. The competition gives you the chance to win all sorts of goodies.
Goody-goody.
Goody goody.
Gooey.
Gooey.
Gooey cakes.
Gooey mud.
Babies make her go all gooey. Babies make her go all gooey.
Goof.
Goof.
Somebody goofed and entered the wrong amount. The restaurant totally goofed up our reservations.
We spent the afternoon just goofing around on our bikes.
He's been goofing off at school.
The goof could cost the city $5 million.
Goofball. Goofball.
Goofy.
Goofy.
A goofy grin spread across her face when she saw the card.
Goofy-footed. Goofy-footed. Google. Google.
I Googled her name and found out she runs her own company.
Google whack. Google whack.
Googly.
Googly.
Google. Google. Googleplex. Googleplex.
Gooly.
Gooly.
Goon.
Goon.
Goop.
Goop.
Goose.
Goose.
Gooseberry.
Gooseberry.
Goose pimples.
Goose pimples.
Goose step.
Goose step.
Gopher.
Gopher.
Gordian knot.
Gordian knot.
In recent years, governments have tried to cut the Gordian knot by imposing cuts in state support to the railways.
Gordian knot.
Gore.
Gore.
He was attacked and gored by a bull.
He likes movies with plenty of blood and gore.
Gorge.
Gorge.
We gorged ourselves on ripe plums.
The insect sucks until it is gorged with blood.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
What do you think of my new flatmate? He's absolutely gorgeous. What do you think of my new flatmate? He's absolutely gorgeous.
You look gorgeous, Maria.
A gorgeous cake.
The hotel room had a gorgeous view.
Gorgon.
Gorgon.
Gorilla.
Gorilla.
Gormless.
Gormless.
A gormless grin.
Gorse.
Gorse.
Gory.
Gory.
A gory horror movie.
Gory tales of murder.
Come on, I want to hear all the gory details.
Gosh.
Gosh.
Gosh, it's cold.
Gosling.
Gosling.
Go slow.
Go slow.
Gospel.
Gospel.
The Gospel according to St. Luke.
Missionaries were sent to preach the gospel.
Gospel stories.
Spreading the gospel of science.
Don't take everything she says as gospel. A gospel choir.
Gossamer.
Gossamer.
Gossip.
Gossip.
Here's an interesting piece of gossip about Mrs. Smith. What's the latest gossip? Do you want to hear some juicy gossip?
She had no time for idle gossip. It was common gossip how we felt about her.
You miss a lot of office gossip when you have a day off work.
On Sundays, all the men gather in the square to exchange local gossip. Phil's in there, having a gossip with Maggie.
Rick's a terrible gossip.
The whole town was gossiping about them. Gossip column.
Gossip column.
Gossipy.
Gossipy.
Gossipy secretaries.
Got.
Got.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 5 o'clock. Gotcha.
Goth.
Goth.
Gothic.
Gothic.
A Gothic church.
Go to.
Go to.
He's the go-to guy for questions about spreadsheets.
Gotta.
Gotta.
We gotta go now.
Gotten.
Gotten.
Gouache.
Gouache.
Gouge.
Gouge.
He took a knife and gouged a hole in the bottom of the boat. A rough road had been gouged out of the rock.
Every week 30,000 tons of slate are gouged out of the mountains.
Goulash.
Goulash.
Gourd.
Gourd.
Gourmand.
Gourmand.
Gourmet.
Gourmet.
A gourmet cook.
Gourmet dinners.
Gout.
Gout.
Gov. Gov.
Govern.
Govern.
The leaders who govern the country.
The party had been governing for 7 months.
Legislation governing the export of live animals.
The universe is governed by the laws of physics.
Governance.
Governance. Governess.
Governess.
Governing.
Governing.
FIFA is the governing body of world soccer. FIFA is the governing body of world soccer. The Democrats are now the governing party in the country. The governing class of ancient Rome.
Freedom of speech is one of the governing principles in a democracy.
Government.
Government.
The government are planning further cuts in public spending. The U.S. government has tightened restrictions on firearms.
Neither party had the majority necessary to form a government.
Structural reforms are unlikely under the present government.
Most people in the country support the return to democratic government.
What would the opposition do if they were in government?
The importance of good government in developing countries.
The protest march was really about big government.
Governmental.
Governmental.
An attempt to restrict governmental power.
Government health warning.
Government health warning.
Governor.
Governor.
A school governor. The hospital's board of governors. The prison governor. The governor of the central bank.
Governor General.
Governor General.
The Governor General of Australia.
Governorship.
Governorship.
Gown.
Gown.
A white silk wedding gown.
A hospital gown.
GP.
GP.
I've got an appointment with my GP at 5 o'clock.
GPA.
GPA.
GPS.
GPS.
Grab bag.
Grab.
Grab.
I grabbed my bag and ran off.
2 men grabbed her and pushed her to the ground.
Kay grabbed hold of my arm to stop herself falling.
I managed to grab the gun from Bowen.
Why don't you go and grab some sleep?
Hang on while I grab a cup of coffee. Let's grab a bite to eat before we go.
Try to get there early and grab good seats.
Bob tried to grab all the profit.
I think you should grab your chance to travel while you're young.
She grabbed the opportunity to go to America.
Melanie grabbed at the invitation to go. This is our chance to grab a slice of this new market.
The book is full of good ideas to grab your students' attention.
The plight of the refugees immediately grabbed the headlines. How does the idea of a trip to Spain grab you?
I grabbed at the glass just before it fell.
Lucy grabbed for the money.
As soon as he turned his back, I made a grab for the revolver.
A shameless power grab to eliminate opposition.
Officials denounced the settlers' land grab.
Grab bag.
Grab bag.
The treaty covers a grab bag of issues.
Grace.
Grace.
Lena moved with the grace of a dancer.
The hotel maintains traditional standards of elegance, style and grace.
He didn't even have the grace to apologize.
Max definitely lacked social graces.
I got a few days' grace to finish my essay.
Kevin smiled and accepted his defeat with good grace.
With typical bad grace, they refused to come to the party.
We are saved by God's grace.
My father said grace.
He died in a state of grace.
Ah, so you've decided to grace us with your presence.
His portrait graces the wall of the drawing room.
Graceful.
Graceful.
Her movements were graceful and elegant.
The branches formed a graceful curve.
Her father was a quiet man with graceful manners.
She rose gracefully to her feet.
Graceless.
Graceless.
He was bad-tempered and graceless in defeat.
The soldiers were graceless with their heavy packs and helmets. The soldiers were graceless with their heavy packs and helmets.
Graceless architecture. Gracious.
Gracious.
Sybil was the most gracious, helpful and generous person to work with.
A gracious apology.
A gracious manor house.
A magazine about gracious living.
Good gracious, what on earth has happened to your feet? Did you ever go back? Good gracious, no.
Our gracious queen.
Grad.
Grad.
Gradable.
Gradable.
Gradation.
Gradation.
There are many gradations of colour between light and dark blue.
Grade.
Grade.
The best grades of tea are expensive.
Industrial grade diamonds.
Low-grade products. There are lots of jobs in junior grades.
He got a grade A in maths.
Tim worked hard and got good grades.
What does it take to make the grade as a top golfer? My brother is in 6th grade.
A 5th grade teacher.
Pencils are graded according to softness.
All the parks are regularly checked and graded by tourist board inspectors. All the parks are regularly checked and graded by tourist board inspectors.
Ted is grading papers in his office.
Grade crossing.
Grade crossing.
Graded.
Graded.
Graded course books.
Grade inflation.
Grade inflation.
Grade point average.
Grade point average.
Grader. Grader.
Grade school.
Grade school.
Gradient.
Gradient.
A steep gradient. Grad school.
Grad school.
Gradual.
Gradual.
There has been a gradual change in climate.
The gradual decline in manufacturing industry.
Education is a gradual process.
Gradually.
Gradually. Jill gradually became aware of an awful smell.
Gradually my ankle got better.
Graduate. Graduate.
A Harvard graduate.
A graduate of Edinburgh University.
University graduates. A history graduate. He's a graduate in philosophy.
A high school graduate.
Kate graduated from medical school last year.
He graduated in physics from Cambridge University.
Jerry graduated from high school last year.
As an actress, she had graduated from small roles to more substantial parts.
A graduate student.
Graduated.
Graduated. Graduated rates of taxation.
Graduate school.
Graduate school.
Graduation.
Graduation.
After graduation, Neil returned to Ohio.
On graduation, Nancy became an art teacher.
Graduation day.
Greco.
Greco.
Graffiti.
Graffiti.
The walls are daubed with graffiti.
Graft.
Graft.
Martha had to have several skin grafts.
Our success has been due to sheer hard graft.
He promised to end graft in public life.
The technique involves grafting a very thin slice of bone onto the damaged knee.
New elements are being grafted onto our traditional form of government.
It is a 17th century farmhouse with some Victorian additions grafted on.
Grail.
Grail.
Grain.
Grain.
Big sacks of grain.
Last year's grain harvest was the biggest ever.
Grains of rice.
Cut along the grain of the wood.
A grain of sand.
There were crumbs and grains of sugar on the table.
The story wouldn't have fooled anyone with a grain of sense. The story wouldn't have fooled anyone with a grain of sense.
There is a grain of truth in all folklore and legend.
Mary is always honest, and it went against the grain to tell lies. Mary is always honest, and it went against the grain to tell lies.
Grainy.
Grainy.
Gram.
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 Gram. On his birthday, we sent him a kissogram.
Grammar.
Grammar.
Check your spelling and grammar.
The rules of English grammar. A dictionary lists the words. A grammar states the rules.
Grammarian.
Grammarian.
Grammar school.
Grammar school.
Grammatical.
Grammatical.
Grammatical rules.
Gram.
Gram.
Grammy.
Grammy.
Gramophone.
Gramophone.
Gran.
Gran.
Granary.
Granary.
Grand.
Grand.
A grand country house.
The party was a grand affair.
New Yorkers build on a grand scale.
Henry Luce had a grand design for America's future.
The company's grand ambition was to become the first and biggest global airline.
Henry Luce had a grand design for America's future.
The company's grand ambition was to become the first and biggest global airline.
He looked very grand in his ceremonial uniform.
The grand end of West Avenue. The Grand Hotel.
Grand Central Station.
The Grand Duke of Baden.
We all had a grand time.
Thank you, Shirley, that's grand.
You could add the £15,000 bonus to the first prize and win a grand total of £125,000.
She had reached the grand old age of 80.
The grand old man of British theatre.
I am training her to cook for royalty, Auguste said grandly.
The car cost him 15 grand.
Grandad.
Grandad.
Granddaddy.
Granddaddy.
Louis Armstrong, the granddaddy of all jazz trumpeters.
Grand Central Station.
Grand Central Station.
Our house was like Grand Central Station last night.
Grandchild.
Grandchild.
Grandad.
Granddad.
Granddaddy.
Granddaddy.
Granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
Grandee.
Grandee.
Grandeur.
Grandeur.
The grandeur of the mountains.
Grandfather.
Grandfather.
Grandfather clock.
Grandfather clock.
Grand finale.
Grand finale.
Grandiloquent.
Grandiloquent.
Grand jury.
Grand jury.
Grandiose.
Grandiose.
Grandiose schemes of urban renewal.
Grand larceny.
Grand larceny.
Grandma.
Grandma.
Grand Mal.
Grand Mal.
Grandmaster.
Grandmaster.
Grandmother.
Grandmother.